have already done that. Now, the next story on Outside Source comes from BBC Earth. It's about a study that claims that the idea of monogamy evolved to protect human beings against sexually transmitted diseases. The journal Nature Communications, which you can find online, says that our ancestors may have been forced to stay in pairs as a way of staying healthy. Now, we were put onto this story by Melissa Hugenboom from BBC Earth. She's here with us. Hi, Melissa. So what's the basis for this study? What have they in particular been looking at?
The researchers wanted to understand why so many of us live in monogamous pairs, because from an evolutionary point of view, it doesn't really make sense. Many mammals, for instance, prefer to spread their seed around. It provides more optimal chance for their offspring to survive. And yet, so many of us choose to stay together. So they put all these factors, as well as looking at the transmission of STDs, into a model and decided that when societies became larger, as agriculture boomed, that people really needed to stay together to protect the transmission of diseases.
So it's nothing to do with human beings developing a sense of morality?
They didn't look at the morality in this factor. Morality wasn't always a factor back in the day when it was more about survival. STDs impacted fertility, and that's the main thing. In small hunter-gatherer groups before that, the diseases wouldn't have time to spread around. But in larger groups, about 10,000 years ago, when agriculture became the norm, humans began to settle. That's when diseases became more of an issue.
Okay, so this is not about a threat to people's lives. This is about a threat to their ability to procreate.
Exactly, their fertility, because bacterial infections like gonorrhea, syphilis, they will mean that if you get infected by them, there's no treatment back in the day. Today, of course, we do have treatment, but in the past, this was a real threat, and if you couldn't procreate, then your line would die out.
So, of course, at the moment, human beings' approach to procreation relationships is quite markedly different to most animals. If we go back to the period being looked at by the scientists here, can we say that we were far closer to other beings on the Earth?
I think we've always stood slightly different from the animal kingdom. We've always potentially had a sense of morality about it as well. But today we're not actually that different from our ancestors. Monogamy is still the dominant force in so many cultures. Polygamy is still practiced, but monogamy, staying together for life, is still a thing that happens, and it could have its roots in this time when STDs were more of a threat.
All right, Melissa, thank you very much indeed. Those of you interested in BBC Earth, stick it into a search engine. You'll find lots and lots of coverage of the world that we live in.